Ladies and gentlemen, adventurers and movie lovers alike, welcome to a journey back in time, both to ancient Egypt and the late 1990s, when Hollywood delivered one of the most thrilling, action packed, and downright fun adventure films of the era. This is the history of The Mummy. Released in 1999 and directed by Stephen Sommers, The Mummy was a box office smash, breathing new life into a classic Universal monster movie. It wasn't just a horror film, it was also an adventure, a romance, a comedy, and a spectacle, all wrapped up into a sweeping Indiana Jones style package. But how did this movie come to be? And what hidden treasures lie beneath the sands of its productions? Ladies and gentlemen, grab your satchel and dust off your ancient tomes, and let's uncover the history of the mummy. The idea for the mummy actually dates back decades. Universal Studios had been wanting to revive their classic 1932 Boris Karloff mummy film for years, with various scripts floating around throughout the 80s and early 90s. Horror legends like Clive Barker and George A. Romero were even attached at certain points, envisioning the film as much more of a darker film and a more terrifying story. It wasn't until Stephen Sommers came along with his high adventure concept that things truly took shape. His vision? A swashbuckling, action packed reimagineering that would feel more like an Indiana Jones meets the mummy, and it worked. Summers is quoted as saying, the producers, Sean Daniel and Jim Jacks, had been developing the concept for 9 years. I was just finishing Deep Rising and I'd heard they parted ways with another writer director. They took me right to Universal, and one of the first things I said was, nobody wants to see a guy wrapped in bandages. They're going to laugh at it. I walked out, and Jim was like, the studio wants to do it for 15 million. I said, I'm going to need that for visual effects alone. Summers, who wrote the script in just 6 weeks, reportedly pitched his idea in just minutes, and Universal greenlit the film almost immediately. The studio, eager to cash in on the renewed interest in adventure films following the successes of Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones, gave him a sizable budget of $80 million. That was a large amount at that time, but the film was set to be an ambitious project, which would be blending both cutting edge CGI, practical effects, and large scale set pieces to recreate the grand scale of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt. Say that 5 times fast. In the end, The Mummy cost about $62 million to complete and grossed $418 million at the box office, making it the sixth highest film of 1999. The cast was nothing short of legendary. Brendan Fraser, fresh off his roles in George of the Jungle and Gods and Monsters, brought the perfect mix of charm and heroism as Rick O'Connell. Rachel Weisz, playing the intelligent and endearing Evelyn Carnahan, delivered a career defining performance. And of course, we cannot forget Arnold Vosloo as the menacing Imhotep, whose eerie presence and intense performance made the mummy more than just a monster. He was a tragic villain with a mission. Casting Fraser was a little bit of a gamble for Universal. While he was known for his comedic roles, he had never headlined a major action film. However, his physicality, charisma, and the ability to perform his own stunts won the directors over. In a similar fashion, Rachel Weisz was not a major Hollywood star at the time, but her portrayal of Evelyn quickly became iconic, showing both intelligence and bravery in a male dominated genre. As with any movie, the rumors swirled with who could have been, naming everyone from Brad Pitt, Matthew McConaughey, and Leonardo DiCaprio to play the title role of Rick O'Connell. It was said that Leo came the closest, but had to back out due to a conflict in filming his other scheduled movie, The Beach. At the end of the day, I think it's safe to say that Brendan Fraser did an outstanding job in his role, and I honestly can't picture anybody else doing what he did. While the film script takes place in Egypt, the location could not be used for filming due to fears of local turmoil in the region. Instead, filming took place in the vast deserts of Morocco, where the cast and crew faced scorching heat, sandstorms, and even dehydration. Outdoor sets were built around natural surroundings, including the movie's main location, Hamunaptra, which was actually filmed inside a dormant volcano. Interior shots were filmed in various local buildings and UK sound stages, including England's Mintmore Towers, which is famously known as the Wayne Manor in Batman Begins. The conditions were so rough in these areas that the film had local medics on site to help treat conditions ranging from dehydration to local and sometimes poisonous insect and snake bites. Many cast and crew suffered injuries and illness during filming, but none more notably than actor Brandon Fraser. During the hanging scene near the beginning of the film, the actor was actually injured when he, in fact, accidentally hung himself while shooting the scene. Fraser himself said he blacked out for about 18 seconds and had to be revived. According to an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Fraser is quoted as saying, Rick is dangling at the end of the rope, and he's such a tough guy that his neck didn't snap. There was a hangman's gallows, and there was a hemp rope tied into a noose that was placed around my neck. The first take, I'm doing my best choking acting, and Steve says, Can we go for another one and take up the tension on the rope? I said, All right, one more take, because a noose around your neck is going to choke you in the arteries no matter what. I remember seeing the camera start to pan around, and then it was like a black iris at the end of a silent film. I regained consciousness, and one of the EMTs was saying my name. There was gravel in my ear, and it really hurt. Steven, who he and I disagree, but I think he was trying to go, Oh, that wacky Brandon acting up a storm again. I was like, I'm done for the day. Thankfully, Fraser was able to continue filming, but would later have to have various surgeries to repair many injuries he obtained from years of stunt work for his movies. Of course, The Mummy wouldn't be what it is without its groundbreaking visual effects. Industrial Light and Magic, the same team behind Jurassic Park and Star Wars, pushed CGI to new levels, creating the terrifying face in the sand effect and the chilling undead armies. While some of the CGI may look a bit dated today, at the time it was revolutionary. As mentioned in the quote from Stephen Summers earlier, the budget for visual effects alone was 15 million. The team combined procedural graphics, which were used to create the sandstorm similar to the technique used in Twister, motion capture, which was used to animate the digital mummies to match the live action fight scenes, and particle simulations used to create those flesh eating scarabs. One of the film's most iconic effects, the face in the sand, was particularly groundbreaking. ILM developed new rendering techniques to create a fluid, moving face that maintained detail while being surrounded by swirling dust. The result was one of the most memorable images in 90s cinema. Another fan favorite scene took place with Rachel Weisz's character in the library, toppling over bookcase after bookcase. To everyone's delight, this scene was actually captured in one take. To reset the scene would have required a full day's work, so great job, Rachel. And let's talk about legacy. The Mummy was a massive hit, quite literally saving Universal Film Studios at the time after a series of flops. It spawned sequels, spin offs like The Scorpion King, and even theme park attractions. It also further cemented Brendan Fraser as the star he was destined to become. One of the most iconic elements in The Mummy is the Book of the Dead, a mysterious and powerful artifact that brings Imhotep back to life. But was the Book of the Dead real? Well, yes and no. The actual Book of the Dead wasn't a single cursed book made of black stone, as depicted in the film. Instead, it was a collection of funerary texts, spells and prayers written on papyrus that ancient Egyptians used to guide the deceased through the afterlife. These texts varied from person to person and were often placed in the tombs to help the soul navigate the underworld. The Book of the Dead featured many spells intended to provide protection, allow the deceased to pass judgment, and even included guidance for resurrection. While the film's portrayal takes a creative liberties, it's a concept of a powerful book influencing the afterlife, which does have some historical basis. The same goes for the Book of Amun Ra, which, unlike its cinematic counterpart, has no real life equivalent. One of the details that set the mummy apart was its attempt to incorporate real ancient Egyptian language. The filmmakers worked with language experts to recreate spoken Egyptian based on known hieroglyphics and linguistic research. While the pronunciation is largely speculative, since ancient Egyptian has no native speakers today, the dialogue spoken by Imhotep and the high priest in the film is rooted in historical attempts to reconstruct the language. For example, many of the incantations and phrases spoken in the film are based on documented funerary text and religious inscriptions. While not 100% historically accurate, the effort put into bringing ancient Egyptians to life added an extra layer of authenticity to the film's atmosphere. The impact of the mummy wasn't just felt on the big screen, it also became a thrilling attraction at Universal Studios theme parks. Revenge of the Mummy, the high speed indoor roller coaster, first debuted at Universal Studios Florida in 2004, later expanding to Hollywood and Singapore. The ride takes guests on an intense adventure through a cursed tomb, featuring fire effects, animatronics, and, of course, the terrifying return of Imhotep himself. One of the most exciting elements of the ride is its use of a false ending, where riders believe they have escaped, only to be plunged back into danger for a final scare. Fun fact, we're going to be featuring the ride for a different section, but I have to tell you, I convinced my husband to go on this when he hates roller coasters, and that false ending did indeed scare the bejeez mummy out of him. More to come on that. Additionally, The Mummy also made an impact in Universal's horror makeup show, where behind the scenes effects from the film are showcased. Fans can get a glimpse into how some of the film's incredible special effects were achieved, from prosthetics to CGI transformation. It's a great way to see how classic monster movie magic has evolved with modern technology while also paying tribute to Universal's horror legacy. Don't worry, we have future videos covering both of these fan favorite attractions. So, what makes The Mummy so timeless? Maybe it's the perfect blend of action, humor, and horror, or maybe it's the chemistry between the cast, or maybe, just maybe, it's the fact that it never took itself too seriously, embracing the fun and wonder of a true adventure film. Whatever the reason, The Mummy remains one of the greatest adventure films of all time, proving that sometimes the past is worth digging up. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into movie history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more cinematic adventures. Until next time, happy exploring.